It was Christmas Eve. My family and I were full from all the food we had devoured and tired of hearing jingle bells play on a loop for 5 hours. The fireplace was dying down from its long day of keeping us warm, and everyone was almost ready to go to bed. My parents and I turned on the television looking for something to entertain us. We opened Netflix and browsed for what felt like a decade until we stumbled upon a familiar face. Leah Remini, an actress my family adores from our hit TV show, The King of Queens.
Come here for a second. You smell like chlorine. You've been in that pool.
You just tried to want you to understand.
How could you go in my arch enemy's pool?
Arch enemy? Who are you, Catwoman?
Under her beautiful face was an unfamiliar word, Scientology. Interested in the title, I started asking questions about what this documentary was going to be about. My parents, not knowing a lot, answered briefly in a sad tone, explaining how it was a religion that takes advantage of its followers. Me, intrigued to learn more, clicked on Leah Remini's face and began the next 3 hours of my life, watching Scientology and the aftermath. When my parents and I had finally had enough of the Scientology talk, we decided to go to bed, but all I could think of was Scientology. The first thing I did the next day was continuing the story of Scientology, and the next day, and the day after that, I kept watching. My family and I finished all 3 seasons in just a couple of days. Scientology was just all that was on my mind, all I wanted to think, talk, discuss about. Once I finally finished Leah Remini's documentary, my mind kind of stopped thinking about it. The holiday break was over, I had things to do, and I kind of moved on with my life. I would randomly think about the horrors I heard from the documentary, but it was all just talk. I never looked further into it. This all happened a year ago. Scientology is still a mystery to me, but not my only interest. Then, one day, I went to class, learning I needed to pick a topic that interested me. Writing down things that interest me, from cooking to Banksy, I found myself writing down Scientology. I froze, almost like I had cracked a code to a big equation. The spark of interest I had for Scientology came back, and I was ready to learn everything I could about the so-called religion. I got home and went to the one person who got me interested in Scientology, Leah Remini. I sat down and refreshed my brain on all the elements that came with Scientology. I listened to stories from people who left Scientology, people who still love Scientology, and people who were betrayed by Scientology. After watching it for a couple of hours, I took a second to let my mind process what all I consumed. I wanted to get closer to the church, get in contact, so I needed to make a fake identity. First step was changing my name. I wanted to choose something pretty standard, so Emily Smith sounded good to me. I made my new Gmail, emilysmith57457@gmail.com. Please don't contact me unless you're a Scientologist. I went to the Scientology website and scrolled until I found their Contact Us link. I filled out the form, answering each question as truthfully as I could, and told them that the reason I was reaching out was because I am interested in getting involved and wanted to know more about Scientology. I hit send and patiently waited for a response. It's been a couple days and I haven't heard back, so I emailed another Scientology website, the Church of Scientology International, and found their contact button and decided to email them too. I haven't heard back from them either. I might never hear back from either of them, but that just fuels my questions more. I went and checked back on the website and saw that you can subscribe to their news and updates, so I thought that might be my best way in. I clicked the subscribe button, hoping to get more information about Scientology. As I waited to hear back from the many emails I sent, I decided to watch another documentary about Scientology called Going Clear, Scientology in the Prison of Belief by Alex Jimby. As I filled my brain with more and more knowledge about Scientology, I kept wondering to myself how it is possible for someone to get wrapped up into this religion. A big element in Scientology is the books written by L. Ron Hubbard, who was the founder of the church. To strengthen your faith, You have to read and purchase these books at a cost of around $100 to $1,000. Super affordable and reasonable, right? Because I don't have millions of dollars laying around, I researched on my computer a PDF of the first book that is required to be read for Scientology, Dynamics, the Evolution of a Science. I downloaded the PDF and started to read the most confusing 53 pages I've ever read. I thought if I could read the pages that convince the people who buy into this cult, then I might understand it more. But honestly, I just have more questions and less answers. I've watched the documentaries, read the books, done my research, and now I think it's time to see a church in person. Except, I don't have a car, and everyone I want to go with is too scared to go with me. And honestly, I'm too scared too. So, I decided to keep my distance and message the one and only Leah Remini on Instagram, in the rare chance that she answers. Surprisingly, she didn't. The one thing about Scientology is you can't get in contact with anyone because they are not allowed to talk to anyone not in the church. And most people who were in the church but left signed a contract that they would never talk about the church again. And if they break that contract, the church can sue. So I decided to let everyone be and just keep my fingers crossed that someone will respond. After all my research, here is all I've gathered about the religion, or what I really want to call it, a business. It all came together when a man named L. Ron Hubbard decided to write a couple books on his new discovery of enlightenment, Scientology. His definition of Scientology is the study of knowing how to know. Scientology started out to be just a study of science, but in May of 1952, it became a practice. So, Hubbard turned his books into the teaching of Scientology. Apparently, his goal with Scientology was to give people a path leading to a complete and certain understanding of one's true spiritual nature and one's relationship to self, family, groups, mankind, all life forms, the material universe, the spiritual universe, and the superb being. But this is all according to the Scientology website. To reach this feeling of becoming a higher being, you have to complete something called the bridge. The bridge is a chart Hubbard made which graphically shows tasks you must complete to reach total freedom, otherwise known as going from grade 0 to clear. To be honest, this bridge is complete nonsense unless you speak Scientology. Even after doing research solely on the bridge, I still don't completely understand it. But I did understand that in order to climb the bridge, Scientologists are required to do something called auditing. Another thing L. Ron Hubbard created. Auditing provides a precise route by which individuals may travel to higher states of spiritual awareness. The goal of auditing is to restore beingness and ability. This is accomplished by 1. Helping individuals rid themselves of any spiritual disabilities. 2. Increasing spiritual abilities. Not only does auditing give you spider senses, but auditing also deletes life's painful experiences and addresses and improves one's ability to confront and handle the factors in his life. In English, this basically means a follower of the church has to go to a minister of Scientology and take a lie detector test. While being asked endless questions, they hold on to 2-meter electrodes that are connected to an e-meter, which can tell the minister if the person is being truthful or not. If the meter shows a lie, they cannot move up the bridge and have to repeat the lessons and try again. Oh, and buy more books, because the old ones are no longer good and you have to renew them every time you fail an auditing. A pack of 12 books costs around $4,000, and Scientologists have to buy these books multiple times. This is where Scientology makes their big money. The church has over $500 million, and Leah Remini said she has given the church around $5 million. So, if spending millions of dollars just for books doesn't stop you from wanting to join, this might. There's a group of people in Scientology called the Sea Orgs, which is made up of the most dedicated members who sign billion-year contracts and live and work communally. A former member of the Sea Org had to escape by hopping in someone's truck. Her name was Valerie. She was interviewed by Leah Remini on her docuseries and was born into Scientology. Valerie talked about how when you are a child in Scientology, you are taught that you cannot tell your parents that you miss them because you will be harming your parents' growth. As she got older, she joined the Sea Orgs and worked for David Miscavige. David Miscavige is the leader of Scientology and the head of the Sea Orgs. His wife was Shelley Miscavige. Shelley and Valerie were good friends, and Shelley would come to Valerie for a lot of things. To put this nicely, David Miscavige was not a nice man. He abused his workers physically and mentally, and told Valerie that if you feel like taking it out on someone, do it by all means. Shelley became fearful of David's rage and tried to fix the organization and calm David down. Soon after that, Shelley was segregated and has gone missing since 2006. Because Valerie was so close to Shelley, she started asking questions about what happened. She was moved to physical labor and would spend days and nights digging ditches. Not only did she move to physical labor, but also had to go to a place called The Hole. The Hole was a place for people who disrespected the church. In The Hole, you had to confess your crimes all day to 30 people at the head of Scientology. This was at the Gold Base, which is a location in California. It's surrounded with security, gates, barbed wire, and no way out. A couple years later, Valerie was moved to the film studio at the Gold Base because David believed she would be happier there. The actors were not Scientologists, but were paid a lot of money to use Scientologist sets. On the last day of the film, Valerie knew this was her last chance to escape. She ran to her room, packed her bags, and ran to the parking lot where she knew there would be no cameras. She checked all the car doors trying to find something unlocked when she stumbled upon someone's trunk and hopped in. She was in the trunk for around 2 hours when finally the car stopped. The actor opened the trunk, she got out and explained everything. She was finally free. The Church of Scientology is scary. So scary that I didn't even want to walk through the doors myself. When you look from the outside in, it's hard to understand why anyone would want to be part of Scientology. But the teaching and lies they tell convince others to question why everyone isn't a Scientologist. Scientology claims that if you join the church, you will reach your full potential and be the best in all areas of life. The best mother, daughter, sibling, and not only are you helping yourself, but you are helping mankind. Honestly, that sounds nice if it were true. Ex-Scientologists wish it was true. They wish that all the years and money they spent on the church were for good, when in reality it was just fueling the fire. Scientology convinces you that the outside world is evil, and if you leave the church, you will have no one. When you join, you have to disconnect with family and friends if they are not in Scientology. They capture you, brainwash you, and scare you into never wanting to leave. It's not a religion, it's a cult and a business. Scientology has enough power and money that it has been unstoppable since 1953. The church is a tax-exempt and still running today. Still hurting and tearing families and friends apart. Leah Remini's goal is to take down Scientology and expose the wrongdoings they have done. My goal was to spread more awareness about the church, and next time someone asks you, "Have you ever heard of Scientology?" you will be able to answer with a warning.